Good evening, Northern Colorado. This is N7GES, and welcome to the NCARC TechNet. We are here to discuss amateur radio technical questions, things that you may have wanted to ask, things that are basic, things that are more advanced. Any of those things are good topics here this evening. If you have questions about the TechNet, if you wish to pose a question for the TechNet, or wonder about anything, have suggestions or questions about it, email us at elmers@ncarc.net. That's Elmers, E-L-M-E-R-S, at ncarc.net. When we Elmer somebody, we're teaching them. We're helping them learn about amateur radio and related things. N7GES, let me reset. I'm sorry if I'm sounding a little bit rattled here this evening. It's been a crazy day, and I haven't even had a chance to quite get settled through and get settled in front of the microphone, so my apologies. Today I propose that we chat about amateur radio clubs. What are they, and what do they do for us? What might you like to see an amateur radio club do for us? Suggestions, and this can be from other clubs, things that you might like to see us doing, things you'd like to see other radio clubs do more, that sort of thing. So let me start out by taking check-ins and see who is listening this evening, now that I've been rattling on too long already anyway.
KE0BQ, Alpha Echo 0 Bravo, Quebec, Daryl in Longmont.
Kilo Delta 0, Tango Yankee Uniform, Joe in Loveland.
Good evening, Kevin in the net. This is Whiskey 0, Delta Delta Zulu, Dave in Greeley.
This is Kilo Echo 0, Lima Charlie Kilo, KE0LCK, the other Mike from Windsor.
KE0RXF, Randy in Fort Collins. This is K1DEG, Mike in Platteville.
This is Kilo Echo 0, Sierra Papa Foxtrot, Kevin in Fort Collins.
This is in November 0, Whiskey, India, Quebec, Carrie in Loveland.
Okay, let's welcome N0WIQ, KE0SPF, K1DEG, KE0RXF, KE0LCK, W0DDZ, KD0TYU, and AE0BQ. Thank you very much. Anybody else before we continue?
This is Kilo Echo Zero Romeo Charlie Whiskey, Robert in Arvada.
Welcome, Robert. KE0RCW. Thank you very much for being there. All right. If you didn't check in now, you can always check in later as we go along, as you feel like making comments. So please feel free to do that. But we'll go ahead and move into our topic here. This is not a place for criticizing a club necessarily. I don't want to do criticisms, but I'd love to do suggestions. Some clubs are already doing a lot of great things for amateurs. Some clubs are in a very relaxed mode. Some clubs are very, very busy with certain things. Let's just talk about those tonight and get a feel for what people think a radio club should do and should be for amateurs. Anybody like to start that out tonight?
WIQ.
WIQ, go ahead.
Having been a member since I first became a ham some 24 or 5 years ago, I've watched the club grow into what it is now. And I appreciate the fact that it sets up a set of repeaters for the members. And that's the main thing. Also, the club uses a set up a board of directors so that they can manage the club better with the board. And so there's a lot of things they can do. And the new Elmer situation for the club and testing for the new or potential amateurs and all that is what the club is doing. So I will just say these are good things that a club can do. Back to Nat.
Okay. Several good items there. Repeater management. I think a lot of clubs do that. The board of directors to handle a lot of those matters. The Elmer program, the testing program. Other thoughts?
RXF.
RXF, go ahead.
One thing I've appreciated is the YouTube videos that we record our meeting sessions, and that we also record the tech nets. So even if you miss them, you can check them out later or watch them again. And for a newbie like myself, I really appreciate that.
Okay, very good. Other comments?
LCK.
CK, go.
And besides the technical things that we get, we also provide a service to the community in many events that are going on, assisting with whether it be a bike race or a marathon or whatever, getting out there and helping those people run the events, and generally they're for charity, so that's another thing. Back to that, KE0LCK.
Okay, very good. Anybody had experience with other clubs that either do things that you really like or perhaps have not done things that you were really missing? And again, not as a criticism, but just as a way of conversation to find out what we might think radio clubs, how radio clubs can best serve.
W0LEV.
Evening. Go ahead, LEV.
Yeah, NCRC is predominantly a repeater club. I mean, that's the reality of the situation, and I'm not criticizing. That's just a statement of reality. Contrasting to the Boulder Club, which is, yeah, they support repeaters. They support a remote HF station, but they also are a bit more of a traditional, and I'm going back 30, 50 years, ham club, in that it's balanced between the repeaters, sure to have them, but technical, home brewing, and HF. Again, I do not mean to criticize anybody, but I would like to see, personally, NCRC move in a bit more that direction than just a repeater club. W0LEV.
WIQ again?
Go ahead, Kerry.
I mentioned about the YouTube videos that are taken for the TechNet here tonight. I assume I know they are good, but also there's nothing that will, an Elmer could teach people about certain things better than viewing the video also. Although I know some of the newer ham members prefer the YouTube videos rather than getting with an Elmer, but an Elmer cannot be surpassed by everything that's in that video. So that's my comment.
That's a good comment and important to remember. And yes, replying to Dave's comment, I think we have been trying very hard to reach out in a tech for technical assistance. And we've been also trying to motivate people into HF as well. Haven't done a lot of it, but also haven't had a lot of participation when we have put things out. So, it's a matter of getting it started, I guess, and figuring out how to keep that inspiration going. So, suggestions are certainly welcome. We have had several people contact us through the TechNet, or through the Elmer email list to ask questions, and I think we are keeping most of those answered. I don't know that we've formed too many Elmer relationships yet as a club, but I don't know if a club can do that so well or not. That's something I'll leave up for further discussion. Can a club foster Elmer pairs, or does that have to be done on a more individual basis between people that are already acquainted and know other people? That's perhaps a good question to ask here. Can we inspire HF usage, and how can we do that as a club? Is there a good way as a club to do those kind of things? This is N7GES. We're discussing radio clubs and how they can serve the amateurs.
TYU.
Yeah, I've got a couple things I'd like to bring up, kind of defend a little bit of the HF problem. I agree with Dave, and we've been pushing this, and we've had forums that we actually did over at the Poudre Valley Fire, and actually showed HF. We've had our contest. We did a contest, which we'll have again this year, and we are trying. Okay, that's all I can say is we're trying. I'll let this drop, and I've got another thing I want to bring up here. Just a second. At our next board meeting, I'm going to bring up a optional volunteer list. I'd like someone, and I have somebody in mind, to run a volunteer list. I was been asked various times. It's not part of the ELMA program. It's just basic volunteers for things like, even for the races and various things like that, and also to help out with antennas, stuff like that. Had a lot of people come and say, can they volunteer and stuff like that. So I think we're going to try to organize that a little bit better. And if anybody else has got some other ideas on what else we can do, I'm with Kevin on this. I'm always open to ideas. So bring them on. Thanks so much. Back to Ned.
LEV.
LEV, go.
Yeah, excellent suggestions, and I think both for what you mentioned and the Elmering program, maybe what we need is kind of an online, on the website, NCARC website, a matching game for questions and Elmers. I mean, QRZ has this online. I belong to several of the, what do they call them? Subject bulletin boards, it used to be. Maybe we need to do something like that, just NCRC alone, both for events and questions that people pose. Okay, enough on my part. W0LEV. I'll try and be quiet.
IQ.
You know, Dave, you don't have to keep apologizing. It's
Hey, Rick, how's it going?
all for. So please don't feel bad about that. And we do appreciate the suggestions. You know, anything we can do to inspire interest is what we're working at here. WIQ, go ahead.
Well, it's one of those things. Your Elmers at NCARC gives you the opportunity to have different people pose answers to the questions. And I think that's a reasonably good idea, because the individual hams have different views of different things. And so maybe a query like that would work better for getting somebody started. Now, explaining the long wave of HF compared to the short wave of VHF and UHF, they consider VHF at the verge of line of sight. In other words, you got to see what you're going to talk to. By that short wave radio, where on the long wave, we're talking about spanning hundreds of miles with the long wave. And sometimes we even get it to skip off the ionosphere and get the range even further, like halfway around the world.
and those sorts of things, that sort of information is certainly what we do keep needing to get out to newcomers so that they understand the difference. And of course, I always say too, for the really young folks, you've got to remember that your cell phone goes through a cell tower, which is operated by a commercial company, and if something goes down with that, your cell phone is out of order. Your internet is brought to you by an internet service provider, which also can go down. The radio waves are going to work as long as you've got some sort of power, battery or AC, to run the radio. And you can go direct from one radio to another. So I like to point that out to young people. Other ideas, suggestions. What is a radio club? What do you think of when you think of a radio club that would be the ideal? What would you suggest for a radio club that's trying to expand and get better at serving amateurs in the community? Well, my next question is, what does a radio club do when they hear silence? Crickets, cricket, cricket.
TYU.
TYU, go.
And I appreciate all the input. In fact, actually, what I do is I've gone to different clubs, Longmont, Boulder, and I've looked at their setup and what they're doing and things like that. And I'm not opposed to anybody's ideas, and anybody that thinks that I am doesn't know me very well. The original program that we started at NCARC was the Bowfang program. Okay, the landing of the Bowfang. I'm gonna let this drop for a minute. And that was a program that I promoted back when I was. I don't remember what it was. I wasn't even secretary, I don't think. I think I was just member at large. And that wasn't my idea. That was Mike Hickerson's idea. Most of these ideas that you guys think I come up with, I don't come up with. I'm just promoting somebody else. I'm a good promoter, but a lousy idea guy. And I'll be the first one to admit that. So if you have something that you think might work, let me know, because I think we can make it work. Please do. I'm totally, but I've went around and looked at other clubs, and I've taken the best. The Solder Sniffers, our rosin cores is a spin-off of that. And we try to steal as much ideas as we can, because I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree. So if you guys have got any ideas on how else to run it, manage it, or do something different, I'm definitely open to ideas. Don't think I'm not. And back to Ned. I'm good. Get off my soapbox right now.
WIQ?
WIQ?
Oh, I know as a child I had an immense curiosity, especially about electronics. And so I eventually went to school, a tech school, to get a piece of paper that says I know a little bit about electronics. But it's also, the amateur radio is such a broad subject that virtually anybody with any kind of curiosity can use amateur radio to learn about almost anything. So it's just one of those things. Now, some of us that have reached retirement age and gotten into amateur radio because we now have time to study for the tests and stuff, just simply don't want to take that much time to learn all the things that amateur radio offers. But when it comes to technology in general, amateur radio offers this up on a platter for you to play with.
a tremendously good point. And I think that's important for people to realize. There's a creative part of amateur radio that some of us are forgetting about just a little bit these days, and it's easy to do. There's more to it than just picking up a radio and turning it on and plugging it in and using it. There's the creative aspects, such as making things, making antennas, even putting together your own power supplies. In some cases, putting together a radio, even if it's a BitX 40, which is only a slight bit of assembly, but you're still doing stuff there that you can learn from, and you can still reprogram the Arduino in the BitX 40 to add functionality. You can still learn enough about electronics, basic electronics, to build anything you want. So there's a lot of, as Kiri said, curiosity can lead you to many, many things in radio, and radio can teach you a lot of different things in the process of doing those. Okay, any more club comments, one way or the other? N7GES, this is the TechNet. What are radio clubs good at? What should they be good at doing for the amateur?
A1DEG.
EG, go.
No, this is before I was a ham. Back home, there was quite a many hams around, and I remember they all told me that certain clubs had lists of Elmers on their websites or in their club documentation, wherever it was at that time, and there was a certain person that you had to get in touch with, and they would match you up with an Elmer that was the closest to you as possible, matched you up a little bit, and that kind of thing. Now with this club, I understand what the Elmer is. Don't get me wrong. And I know that there's quite a few of them out there that I consider my Elmers, like LEV and NYY, and quite a few others. But still, my point is there, with the club, is there some kind of a documentation of who's willing to be an Elmer and who's looking for an Elmer?
Well, I think I can say at this point, the main thing we do have a list of folks who are willing to answer questions, Elmer-wise, and I think some of those have also indicated they'd be happy to work with somebody one-on-one. As far as a list of people who need Elmers, we have not got, the best thing we have right now is the Elmer mailing list, which we hope people are using for that purpose, and some people have. And, we've at least tried to either answer questions or get them with somebody that can help with that. So that's what we've got at this point. And, I don't know that we've done a whole lot of matching, but we haven't had a lot of requests for that just yet. So, I think we have the facility, certainly, of doing that.
That's the only thing I can really come up with, because I remember hearing, I hear a lot about the Elmers, the Elmer program, and everything else. I do understand what it is, but for some people that are brand new and are looking for someone to give them advice, I think it would be a good thing to have, so in that way that the novice can get in touch with a group on the web and see a list and possibly know how to get in touch with them in some way or another, the Elmers, that is. That's just a thought. Maybe that's what they were doing, I don't know, but it's been so many years, but that's what I remember. I remember there was a list.
Okay, yeah, and that's something we could talk about. Do we want to make names public, or do we want to let somebody on the board match people with someone and try it that way. Yeah, but either way, yes, point well taken. People need help. People do need to ask, and then we can certainly serve them better when we know what the needs are, because we do know a lot of the resources that we have available, and I think even their willingness and that sort of thing. So I think we could easily do that kind of connecting of people whenever the request came in. So as a listener to the net, I would encourage you that if you want something like that, email the mailing list and specifically say, I'd really like to get an Elmer. I'd like to learn about this and this and this, but I'd like to work one-on-one with somebody. And then we can see what we can do for you.
LEV.
LEV.
I'll make a proposal here. And the board, whoever, can do with it whatever you want. But online, on the NCRC site, I would propose an active, call it the Elmer's Corner. And it's open to both Elmers and questions. And whoever can pick up the questions, more power to them. But call it something like the Elmer's Corner. Online, W0LEV, cooking supper.
SUN.
Yeah, stand by SUN. So Dave, I assume you're talking like a forum, an online forum.
Yeah, much like QRZ does it. Yeah, online. And you might even want to occasionally publish something that might be good for all amateurs in the newsletter. But yeah, online forum.
Okay, very good, very good. SUN, good evening.
I just want to tag onto that. If the club is interested in doing something like that, I already do it for multiple other sites. I'd be more than happy to set up and host a forum for those needs. That could link right off the site. I've just happened to have experience with the forum softwares and setting that kind of stuff up. So I'm just throwing it out there in case it's needed.
Okay, thank you very much. Noted, and we'll certainly keep that in mind there. Thank you. Okay, other comments here. We're getting some good feedback. What do clubs not need to be involved with? And again, not to be on the negative side, but are there things that clubs are sometimes busy with that maybe are not as well serving as other things? And this might not be ours, and it might be ours, but it might be other clubs. Are some clubs too busy with certain things that might be time well spent otherwise?
IQ.
Go ahead, Kerry.
Well, obviously the clubs with a higher population than even the NCARC sometimes get enough repeaters to manage and service that takes more time for the club than the actual meetings do. And so they need some sort of way of managing themselves so that they can keep the time definitions separated. So that's not a criticism, but it is also a criticism. So that's my view. And me personally, I prefer the one-on-one because I'm that kind of a person. I may have technical knowledge out the kazoo, but hey, the one-on-one is my preference. Now, the forum forum board that's been mentioned provides anonymous input from people like me, so you don't have to know me by person to hear my answers. But on the other hand, that's that. But the anonymity, I can't even say the word, anonymity offered by the forum board, well, that depends on the forum board because you may have to sign your own answers. But yeah, you don't have to worry about who's listening because they can't go, you're wrong, or you're right, whatever, but you get the idea.
Yeah, the forums that QRC sponsors are not anonymous. I always sign my call sign and name, W0LEV.
SUN?
SUN?
Yeah, it's KC0SUN, just to get my full call out there and to check in. Two things. One, forums can be done lots of different ways, and if we were going to get into that kind of discussion, that would be a discussion that we would most likely move forward at the time if it's something that the club wanted to pursue. So we could talk all day about the different ways that it could be done, but it's not even on the radar yet, so that's kind of a moot point. And secondly, things that clubs, and not so much our club's pretty good about it, but clubs should definitely not be getting involved in is politics, and I'm just going to put that out there as no club should ever be getting involved in politics unless it's a political club. I do see some offhand comments here and there. For the most part, the people in our group who come from a variegated array of political belief systems do a pretty good job of maintaining proper professionalism and decorum. However, I have been places, even in Colorado, where on the radio that is not the case. So that's what I would throw out there.
I feel like I appreciate our groups for that as well, and it's nice not to have that kind of pressure on your eardrums or pressure of worrying about how you or others may feel about the comments that are coming across here. Okay. Other comments either way, anything at all about our topic, and if not, I will open it up for general questions and discussion.
AE0BQ with a comment.
BQ, go ahead.
I know you guys are kind of NCARC focused, but the Longmont Club's been good to me since April. I just got my license in April, and it's an elderly group for the most part. There's some young blood, a little bit here and there, and there's about maybe 8 or 10 people that are active, right? I think the roster is something like 200. It's crazy. But there's maybe a dozen guys that are actually, go to the meetings. Well, there's about 30 that go to the meetings. My comment. I get so much out of just socializing on Saturday morning breakfast. And I learn a lot there, too. We got a guy who's a network engineer with Verizon, a guy who used to be design nukes at Los Alamos. I mean, there's a lot of technical depth to these folks, and they're very unassuming, of course. They're just elderly gentlemen, and they're very quiet usually. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, that there's the social value of clubs as well. AE0BQ, back to net.
Thanks much. 7GES with the NCARC TechNet. Yeah, I was kind of wondering when that was going to come up, and I'm glad to hear that that's something you appreciate, and I think all of us probably do appreciate that. We like to chat, and we like to chat in person as well, and we like to know who's on the other side of the radio. And I'm glad, and I'm guessing that I would hear that comment from several others now that it's been brought up, because I do think that's probably a very important part of a radio club, is getting people together to know each other, to ask questions, to meet, get acquainted, get more ideas as well. So, thank you. Good comment. Others, please?
RXF.
RXF, go ahead, Randy.
One of my other hobbies was model railroading, and one of the things that happened periodically were tours, and the equivalent in ham would be a shack tour or an antenna farm tour of someone's station and their setup and their antennas and what they're using and what they're doing. And though those are often hard to arrange and they're a big commitment on the individual's part, nonetheless, for newbies like me who, are a bit overwhelmed by all of the different things in the hobby, it is fun to go to those, see these things with your own eyes, hear how they work, what the problems are, in the flesh, on the ground.
Good comments there, Randy. And this is something that has come up before, and we've tried to figure out a way to make that work, either through video. A large group coming to an individual shack might be a little hard to manage. Not maybe impossible, but depending on the shack, it could be a little difficult. One never knows. But so we've talked about alternatives like a video tour of several shacks, things like that, or a tour, divided into sections so that small groups were going to this station and then everybody steps to the next one, alternates through. I think we got kind of stalled out on that. Because I don't think we had nearly the interest that was originally expressed when it came right down to, who wants to do this and when. Everything started getting a little quiet, which kind of surprised me because I think several of us thought that would be a very interesting interesting activity. So. There we go. Let's see. How many people would be interested in having a station tour. We did WWV last summer, and I don't know that we'll be able to get that one again for quite a long time. But that was quite a thing, and a lot of folks did enjoy that one. Certainly, very, very much. There are probably other places like that we could go as well. Any ideas? Any suggestions?
SUN.
SUN?
Not an idea, suggestion for that particular thing. Just another observation. I don't know if it's been brought up because I kind of came in here a little bit late. But it's equipment propagation. Something that ham clubs in general do pretty well. Some do better than others, and it's appreciated, the ones that do it, I'm sure. And what I mean by equipment propagation is exactly what it sounds like. Not a lot of people have radios that aren't being used because they go out and they take them to the swap and they sell them. Somebody else gets to use that equipment. We don't tend to throw things away that still have a useful time left in them, and that's something that I know that I appreciate with in everything, not just ham clubs, but I mean, I've got an old cell phone that I'm using as an IP web camera because it still works, and hams tend to do kind of the same things, which is one thing that I think most ham clubs do well, but I do think some do it better than others. KC0SUN, back to net.
Tell me a little bit more about how you see a club doing that as a club function.
Well, we often have, if people have things for sale, that's always mentioned at all the nets. Whenever we do our club nets, that's always a section. It would be nice, and this kind of goes along with the whole forum thing. If we had a forum thing, we could actually have a section for that, a buy swap trade section for inter-club swapping, because oftentimes things come up that, not necessarily they're ham related in that a ham would be interested in them, but they're not necessarily ham related in that they are directly ham related. And I heard people talking about Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and other things that are not ham equipment, but are certainly equipment for hams. And I think that we could do a little bit more of that as well if we had a venue for that, and obviously a forum would be one place to do that.
TYU.
Stand by a minute, Joe. Good points. And are you aware we have a swap section on our webpage? Now, it's not a forum, but there is a list on the webpage that lists equipment that people are either interested in getting rid of or things that people would want. TYU, go.
Those are my comments exactly. We've had that forum up there for 4 years that I know of.
Yeah,
that that one of the things there is the website. While it is a great source of information, there's lots of stuff there. It does not have engagement. It is a place where you can go and get responses if you engage the Elmers or you send a message to the board or whatever. It is certainly a place to go to get information and get information back to you, but it doesn't have that kind of community feel to it. It just seems and I know that was kind of what we're trying to build there, but more engagement through that medium would probably create a situation where the activity level would be higher.
Please explain that.
Well, and I know that a lot of hams are not of the social media using age, but some of them are. Social media is one of the most popular things that people do online for a reason, and that reason is that it's engaging with others in a very direct method. And social media sites do everything they can to make that engagement more and more immediate and direct as possible, and provide all kinds of tools to do that. Forums also do give you that same opportunity to engage. As a matter of fact, forums were some of the first types of social media, other than BBSs, that were available through the through the internet. So, setting up something that has that kind of community feel. You're not just setting up a website, resources. You're setting up a community, and there is a difference. It's difficult to put your finger on, but you know it when you see it.
Yeah, I would add to that it provides a forum provides a way of discussing things rather than just having a bulletin on the wall with information. I get those. I get those points. Those are points well taken. And to get the discussion going, to provide a way to ask questions and get answers from a wider variety of people as well. And yeah, there's a lot to be gained from that, and I don't know if we're at a point where we want to do something like that. That's something we'd have to talk about as a board. But it's an interesting idea, and it does allow a lot more two-way discussion on things, which could be very, very good for the club as well as our members because of feedback, suggestions, other things like that. So, yeah, good points, Alec. Appreciate that. Anything else?
WIQ again?
WIQ?
I, for one, would take a one-person tour of my shack, except I don't keep my shack very neat, so it would be rather cumbersome for somebody to come visit me. And my HF capability is down right now because I need a new feed line for that, so such is life. It's back to net.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Any other comments or questions about the club issues? And if not, I'll be back with other things here in a moment. This is N7GES. Okay, we did this last week, so we might as well do it again. We had some extra time. Do we have any questions about other amateur radio-related topics that anybody might like to ask this evening, since we've got extra time? These do not have to be complicated topics. Beginners are certainly welcome to ask questions. I don't consider questions to be silly questions. So please ask away.
AE0BQ.
BQ, go ahead.
Right. Well, I've got this nice new shiny brand new ICOM IC7300, and I've got a nice brand new shiny MFJ IntelliTuner with the cross needle display, and that's wired together, and that works great. And I've got a G5 RV at the top of a 40-foot metal pole on a wooden yard arm, by the way, holding it out about I don't know, two feet or so, so that the ladder line is not, too close to the metal mast. But I'm getting noise, and I'm getting noise at about S9 without the noise reduction in. And I've tried turning off the power to everything in my house, and it doesn't get better. What should I do? AE0BQ back to net.
Go directional and figure out where the noise is coming from.
The noise situation.
Okay, we had a complete double there. WIQ, come again. Please remember, give me your prefix, your suffix, and let me recognize you so we don't have a double.
Okay, this is N0WIQ, and I have been using my suffix for a quick login. Anyway, noise. Well, there are things about the power line or the power grid that makes noise. So that's one thing to try, is eliminating the power grid as far as your radio is concerned. That might be a subject of another different conversation, but running your radio off of battery power will isolate it from the power grid. And see if that doesn't do it. Of course, the power grid can emit RFI, by a broken or a cracked insulator that is carrying a power line around the area also. So those can be usually found by taking a portable AM radio, turning to a non-station part of the band, and carrying it around until you find the source of noise that is the strongest noise is closest to the source. I mean, yeah. Or you can say, hey, I got a sensitive enough radio, I'm picking up something that sounds like this kind of noise. Can you do anything about it? I've had noise disappear just because I called the power company. So what can I say? Back to net.
Okay, very good. SUN?
Well, yeah, I was just going to suggest doing something a little different, which would be, there's lots of different ways to do it, but go directional to see if noise is coming from a particular area or direction. That can help. Loop antenna can help. There are some articles on AARL.org that have kind of like a walkthrough of processes and steps you can do to try different things to figure out where noise might be coming from. There's a whole section in the handbook as well, I believe, on locating interference. So those are other sources that might be useful if you want to go through some specific troubleshooting steps.
TYU.
TYU, go.
I didn't get the other guy's call. How much experience do you have in HF?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Virtually none, although I have a degree in engineering. I've never done RF work, but I'm aware of how to isolate radiated and conducted emissions through power connections, and that's about where my, I do have a spectrum analyzer too, if that helps for anything, and that's about where I stand. E0BQ, back to net.
Okay, that gives me an idea. From what you told me, you have isolated your house, the power on your house, correct?
Well, I've turned off. I've tuned to mid-band at I think 40 meters, and then I just cranked the volume on the radio in the basement. Then I went upstairs. Well, first of all, there's nothing in the basement other than the furnace. When it runs, I can tell that's it. But with the furnace off, I went upstairs, turned off TV, refrigerator, various lights. But the one test I haven't done is power the radio off battery, and then kill the main breaker and just see what I've got. AE0BQ, back to net.
Okay, that gives me the idea that what I would do if it was me, and I've had the same issue. Okay, there's a two-step program, and the second step is a lot easier than the first. First thing is to do that. Get yourself a battery. I've got one here if you need something like that. And just run it off the battery, and then kill the main breaker or kill breakers individually to find out maybe what the location would be. Now, if all else fails there, then what I would like you to do, and this is entirely up to you if you'd like, is send a note to the Elmers out there, and you get Greg Ella to come out there and help you out. He's got a snooper. He was over here, and we found a neighbor that actually was having a light show over his house, and that's what was causing it. And we'd be more than happy to do that for you, I'm sure.
Okay. So some practical advice and some resources for other advice. Very good. Yeah, I think the AM radio is a good idea. It can tell you, quite a bit. It might be advisable to have a couple of different ones, one that is less sensitive, or a way to shut your sensitivity back on your AM radio. Shut it in a box, a metal box or something, so that you have a way to maybe control it a little bit more, and that's why the directional antenna was pointed out. So that becomes a little more complex, but it's still something doable, and depending on how bad your noise is, could be well worthwhile. And I understand that the electric companies are generally pretty good about responding to noise problems, because that usually also indicates that there's something wrong in the system too. So take that for what it's worth, and hope that gives you some assistance there.
BQ with a comment.
Go ahead.
All right, well, thank you all for the suggestions. I'm way down in Longmont, so I'll probably have to work it out locally with some of the guys in the club. There is a fellow, NS0W, Sebastian. He's really big in fox hunting and direction finding. He's got a lot of great handheld antennas that might come in useful, and he's one of my Elmers, so I'll have to get with him and ping him about borrowing some of his gear maybe. But yes, the battery test is probably the first order measurement to make. What does it do when isolated from the grid? And again, thank you all for the suggestions, and I'll try these things out slowly, one at a time, as I can make progress on them. AE0BQ, back to net. Thank you.
TYU with just a short comment. Why you go? Thanks so much, Kevin. I know Sebastian. Yeah, he'll fix you up. He's one of the best. Don't get if you've got him on your side, you've got a winner there.
IQ again with a short comment.
WIQ?
One of the things that I found very objectionable when it comes to being around a radio is a computer. A cell phone is a computer. So they always make noise in the HF band, as well as other places in the RF spectrum. But you might consider that as a source of noise also. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, very good. Well, it sounds like you've started in the right direction, and you have other ideas there that will hopefully help. And yeah, you are a little further away, but if it, we still have a way for you to ask a question, and maybe it will give you more of what you need if you didn't get it somewhere else. Sometimes we know people down in that area too that we might be able to try to hook you up too. So you never know. It's always worth asking the question, and then just see what we may be able to do for you one way or the other there. Any additional comments on this? And I'll ask I'll ask for more general questions.
W0ASP, check in and comment.
Good evening, Terry. Go ahead.
Sorry, Kevin, I was busier earlier in the evening, but AE0BQ, my QTH is Berthoud, Colorado, and I'd be willing to help you with hunting down some of your noise sources. I have some technical resources, and I'd be happy to show you how they worked.
Did you get that, Daryl?
Sorry, I have my hands full. Yeah, I appreciate. What was the call again? I'm sorry.
The call here is Whiskey 0 Alpha Sierra Papa. The personal is Terry with a Tango.
Any further questions for Terry? Daryl?
No, I appreciate the offer, Jerry. I will have to get with you when I'm ready to pursue this a little further. You know, some of us work all day long. And radio for me is, you know, if I have an hour in the evening to waste on it right before I go to bed, see if the bands are open, see what's going on. Mostly I'm just listening. I've had a couple of QSOs on, I think, on 40. But 80 and 160 are basically unusable for me. 40 and 20 are, in the evening are pretty good. And I always, of course, I'm just looking for a quiet spot. I also have to play with noise reduction in the receiver, so that might be a factor. So there's a lot of little bells and whistles I can fiddle with on the IC7300. But I appreciate the offer, Jerry, and I'll look you up when I get to that point and need help with that stuff. Thank you very much. AE0BQ, back to net.
Okay, very good. This is N7GES with the TechNet. Glad to be able to help. Other questions for the net before we close?
SCX.
Hey, good evening, George.
Good evening. I was wondering, I have a D-Star radio or D-Star capable radio, and I was wondering what I have to do to get started using it. In particular, do I have to register my call with anybody? Thank you.
WIQ, I may be able to answer some of that questions.
WIQ, go ahead.
Well, to use D-Star, you have to be registered with D-Star in some fashion, and that's usually spelled out in the manual for the radio. So you do have to register your call into the D-Star network. Now, as far as making the radio work, I might be able to help you with that too, because I have 3 ICOM radios that are capable of doing D-Star. Although I do D-Star by way of a Raspberry Pi hotspot. It's a Raspberry Pi and DV Mega, where the DV Mega is a little transceiver that mounts on a Raspberry Pi, and then you load up the software to handle that, and then the radio can talk through the hotspot to just any other hot link up that you can make on D-Star.
Okay, any further information anybody wants to add about D-Star?
SCX again?
Go ahead.
Are there public D-Star repeaters locally?
I know CSU has one. There, I believe, are plans to put up another one in the area sometime soon. Anybody know of any others locally that a person can hit with a radio rather than a hotspot?
Say it again, Kevin, I didn't hear it.
I said I know that CSU has a D-Star repeater. I know there's some plan for another one in the area. I wondered if anybody else knew of any other D-Star repeaters. Okay. I know with CSUs, you can get into the network and connect all over the U.S., so it is there and available for you. final questions before we wrap this up for this evening?
WIQ with a little bit more about ID Star.
Okay, WIQ, go ahead.
Well, if you have an appropriate Elmer, he can take you to different websites that have different information about D-Star. And some of those pieces, some of those are on the internet, and you can find a list of repeaters on the internet also. When they sometimes tell you where the repeaters are and all that kind of stuff. I use the hotspot because with 20 watts out of my ID 5100 and the antenna I have in my attic, I cannot hit the local repeater myself. That's the reason I went to hotspots. Back to net.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for the net at this time? Okay, well, I think we've provided some good info and answered some questions, and I'm glad to hear that. We'll apologize again for putting the topic up so late. This has been a crazy busy week, and things just didn't work like I was hoping. I hope you enjoyed at least this evening's topic, and we brought you some interesting information. Stand by for just a moment, and I'll see if I can come up with a topic here for next week.
If you can't figure one out, I've got one for you.
You know, something we have not talked about here for a while, if ever, and was a really important part of amateur radio for many, many years until cell phone service and the internet made it a lot less necessary, at least in normal times. And that is traffic handling. What is a national traffic system? What is traffic handling? How does it work? What's involved? What do I have to know? What do I have to do? How is it, is it so difficult? Is it hard to learn? I think we could provide a lot of info on that next week, so if you haven't even heard what is traffic handling or traffic net or the national traffic system, then I would encourage you to tune in and hear a bit more about it next week and find out what's involved and why should we continue to learn it and know how to work this skill and what to do with it. So we'll plan on that for next week. I do hope that many of you will attend and listen. Those of you who have had experience handling traffic, please be here to chat with us and give us some basic information. Once again, our nets are streamed on YouTube and available there for review. If you have questions for the net or about the net or suggestions, email us at elmers@ncarc.net and We're also available on Echolink, W0UPS-R. So various ways that you can participate in or listen to the net, and ways to get in touch with us if you have questions. Thank you all very, very much for participating, and this is N7GES. We'll close the net at this time and say good evening and 73 to all. N7GES clear.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.